Hello Gators, today I am describing my experience contributing into this following GitHub repository as you see on screen, which is a Tetris clone. So what is this program about? Self-explanatory. It is a Tetris clone created in CPP and SDL, which is a library that was to be implemented in any compiler that's compatible with it. So a little rundown how this game works. It's simple, just regular Tetris, as you know. It follows the basic controls, as you'll see over here. So enough of how the program works. Let's go on to the issues at hand. So the issue, or more of a feature that I decided to add for this open source project, was to write control instructions on the title screen. This was already resolved. The pull request I made associated to this was resolved, and this was the description as you see in this screen over here. And going into my pull requests, if it can load, thank you. I made this following contribution where, as the issue described, write the control in the main menu of the start. So my original contribution was made in this part over here. Was done 4 days ago. Today's date is September 30th, 2022. And yes, so this was my contribution. I was actually new into using a rendering function with the SDL 2.0 library. So what I really did was follow this same code syntax and write the text so it could be rendered in the screen once Tetris started. I initially believed that new line would work, but as you'll see in this conversation here, it kind of didn't in a way, because it didn't render over here. And this was one of the suggestions that the creator gave me, but unfortunately I was not able to look into this because I was facing issues with Hurricane Ian, which struck Florida around this week. So once I was able to come back online, he made this suggestion over here, which really was just a little fix to my code, which I ended up approving and closing eventually the pull request that he and I worked with briefly. And the only difference really is just for every new line, okay, instead of just writing new line, write a new prender draw text function with the string. And as you see over here, this commit was verified and officially merged into the overall repository. As you'll see here, it was updated 2 months ago. Let's go to main.cpp. Actually, no. It was the update, and the update was made using my commit, as you see over here, my modified commit, let's say. So overall, this was a pretty simple yet fun contribution. The fix ended up working in my favor because my code ran on this machine as well, and the code ran on this machine, and the only real fix is just do this. My code worked. It worked perfectly in my favor, and the only roadblock, aside from new line not rendering correctly because it doesn't support strings, it was just implementing SDL 2.0 onto my Microsoft Visual Studio compiler, which was eventually done, and thankfully it was done in order to at least make this go and run. This was a good learning experience as a first-time contributor into this repository, and what I do different in the future would be basically just look into more issues at hand to tackle it, to see what can I come up with, and if there's anything that involves any other libraries I'm not familiar with, I should probably take time to learn a little bit about it, and try to implement it into my compiler, these libraries over here, so that they can run on my machine, kind of did for me, in order to keep testing the overall contribution. And yes, and finally, that was my contribution into Tetris. And you'll probably see this in their next sprint release, where they release a new version of this program.